In the previous video, Suho and the protagonist had their first kiss, complete with the boy's statement to her. However, Ju Kyung interrupted him after a while and ran away. The boy follows, and the protagonist can't believe that he really likes her, but when Suho gives him the necklace she had bought, Ju Kyung even forgets about his insecurity. So much so that when she sees Soo-jin, she runs to hug her, and only when she says her name, because her friend doesn't agree, she realizes that she doesn't have makeup on, but the girl understands why Ju Kyung hides her real face and helps her go to the hidden cabin so no one sees her. When he returns to school, Ju Kyung starts acting in a way that Suho hadn't imagined. She treats him badly and then sends him cute messages. Later, the two meet behind the trash cans, and the girl is afraid that some bullies will start to bother her because she is dating Suho. Despite not liking it, he tries to understand, so the couple reaches an agreement. Before exposing herself to everyone, the protagonist will first tell her friends. Suho invites her to eat at a place an hour away from school, so the two of them can enjoy it alone without Ju Kyung getting worried. While talking at the table, the girl is going to show him that she saved the boy's name as boyfriend with hearts, but backs off when she finds out that he saved hers as Lim Ju Kyung, her name. After starting to eat, the protagonist's colleagues appear at the restaurant, and Suho hides under the table. Ju Kyung explains that he wants to be alone, and the boys, despite wanting to know who is hiding, leave her alone for a while. Suho led the protagonist to that place so that she could meet a makeup artist that the girl is a big fan of. It was with her that Ju Kyung learned how to apply makeup, selling her videos on the internet. The protagonist has just received a toast from his idol, and in Selena's bathroom, he corrects the shade of lip tint that Ju Kyung should use. He even gives a passive-aggressive compliment and says that the girl is better than she was when she started putting on makeup. When he arrives at his mother's salon, Ju Kyung realizes that he has to start helping around the house after hearing his mother complain that it's not easy to support 5 people. The protagonist needs to think about the career she wants to pursue to fill out the form she got from school talking about, and when she decides to work in cosmetology, she discovers that it has a very high value for students. Hee Kyung ends up going into his sister's room once again drunk, and his phone starts ringing. Ju Kyung answers it and explains that his sister is sleeping. When he asks who it is, the man changes his tone of voice, and the teacher pretends to be someone else. At dawn, the protagonist's father leaves home, and when the family wakes up in the morning, they come across a note that the man left, warning that he will return home when he recovers the money that a man had stolen from him. In fact, it is about this. The investment that the girl's father made in a lost treasure, which of course never existed. When Ju Kyung is sleeping at the stop, Seo Jun approaches, and as soon as she wakes up, the boy can't act normally around her. He felt a little embarrassed after he started to like the protagonist, so in the end he ended up walking. It was just a matter of taking the same bus with the girl. He is no longer using his motorcycle after she talked about the boy's mother. She cares a lot about him, etc. At school, the teacher has to deal with a coworker who invites him out. She claims it is to help her buy a gift, and although the man denies it, the woman doesn't listen to him and says she will meet him at night. Meanwhile, those of her colleagues who saw Ju Kyung at the restaurant have already spread the word that she is dating someone mysterious, and Suho asks her to send him a photo that the two of them took together. However, when she goes to do that, she ends up sending it to the gossipist boy in class. The girl even manages, with a lot of effort, to erase her cell phone and delete the photo, but isn't that a lot of desperation for something she wanted so much? The two agree to meet at the comic book store, believing it to be the safest place. However, Go-woon is working there, and the protagonist quickly takes Suho out. Meanwhile, Hee Kyung is on the street when she sees her lover inside a store with another woman. She gets blood in her eyes and goes to the place to see what is happening. Hee Kyung makes a point of making it clear that she is dating the teacher, and when she does, he gets up and leaves. The next day at school, Ju Kyung takes a nap under her class until class starts, and when Soo-jin goes to straighten her hair, she notices that her friend is wearing the necklace that Suho carried at camp. Then the girl goes to the bathroom and starts washing her hands frantically. The protagonist spends the day trying to get a job so she can pay for her course and help her mother. However, no matter how many places she goes, it's not easy to do so. The girl calls Suho to vent, but her boyfriend has his phone turned off at the moment, and when the protagonist goes to the bathroom, she ends up coming across Seo-jun there. He is working as a model, and his photographer invites Ju-kyung to participate. Since the other model was absent and the girl accepted, it's more money than she was expecting. It turns out that the photos were taken as if they were a couple. How will Suho react when he sees this? Meanwhile, our boy is having dinner with his father and Soo-jin's parents, and the girl is also along. At one point, her father is unpleasant, as expected, and Suho saves her by saying that they need to go out to study. Later, Ju-kyung is at an establishment with Seo-jun to eat something after the section. She asks how he would save his girlfriend's name on his cell phone, and the boy replies that it would be something cute and heartfelt. He thinks it's strange that Suho doesn't show it to others, and the girl explains why. As she is heading home, Suho calls her, and the two are talking when suddenly the boy hangs up. It turns out that he found the protagonist's father on the street. The man seems to be starving and smelly, so Suho took him to her house, gave him food, a bath, and a bed to sleep in. Meanwhile, Ju-kyung is cleaning the house to help his mother and sings the song that Go-woon sang solo in the performance. His brother at that moment is crazy and starts to see the girl, so he asks his sister not to sing this song. Later, in the middle of the night, Suho wakes up with the girl's father on his couch. He is watching a game, and the boy is also a fan of the player, so the two watch the game together. The next day, the man says goodbye to the boy before he goes to school, tells him to take care of himself, thanks him for his stay, and receives the warning that Suho will only keep her secret until that day. Meanwhile, at school, the protagonist's brother is very deluded and comes to Go-woon, saying that she insists on appearing in his head, and that's why the boy will give her a chance. I don't know where he thought this would work, and of course the girl just ignores him. Seo-jun got Ju-kyung a job at a cafe, and when she is thanking him, Suho becomes jealous, so he takes her away from the boy. The protagonist even realized it on her first day and, in the end, ended up with her hand a little burned, but through no fault of her own. When Seo-jun found out about this, he was worried about running to the place, but the girl had already left. When the boy is leaving the cafe, he bumps into some girls and drops his friendship bracelet that he had with Se-yeon and Suho. One of the girls takes the accessory and puts it away. At night, Ju-kyung becomes irritated when she discovers that her brother is taking private lessons, considering the family's financial situation. Then she fights with her mother and says that she's the only one who cares about this. Then the protagonist leaves and calls Suho to vent. The boy invites her to come to where he is, and he teaches her martial arts. His lover proposes a challenge, and if the girl succeeds, he will grant her a wish. Ju-kyung manages to comply, and Suho asks if she wants him to pay for her makeup classes. The protagonist cannot accept this and makes a very simple request to change the contact on her cell phone to girlfriend with hearts. Meanwhile, Soo-jin called Suho, and he didn't answer, so she decided to go to where she thought he would be and came across the two of them together. The girl doesn't have a very good expression and doesn't even greet them. As the couple ended up getting wet, Suho took his girlfriend to her house so she could take a shower and dry her clothes. Then he orders a pizza for the two of them to eat while watching a movie. While they are in the music room, where the three friends were making music, we see that the protagonist's father is still there. It turns out that he found an expensive drink and ended up drinking it all, so he fell asleep on the spot. So to avoid being seen, the man hides under the table in the room. The couple starts watching a horror film, and our little friend gets several scares. At a certain point, when the two are leaning in to kiss on the sofa, the man realizes that it is his daughter who is with Suho and comes out from under the furious table. However, as they were already scared of the film, the girl grabbed something to hit the man and knocked out her father. The two then leave and make an agreement not to tell Ju-kyung's mother that he slept at the boy's house or that she is dating him. Before going to sleep, Soo-ho calls his girlfriend, and the two are in love, with the story of not being able to hang up the call. The next day, the protagonist decided that it was time to tell her friends and others about dating Soo-ho. However, when she was about to do so, she was surprised by Soo-jin, as she said she liked the boy and was thinking about declaring herself to him. Ju-kyung doesn't feel good about the story, and when she realizes that Soo-jin is going with the two of them to the study group, she backs off and says she isn't feeling well. Later, Soo-ho asks her to go to the comic book store and instead gives her several medicines. He didn't know what his loved one had, so he took everything he could. Meanwhile, the teacher and Hee-kyung make up, and the man explains that she has been acting strange and drinking too much. He wants to know what is going wrong at work or something, so the two agree to tell each other everything. The next day, Ju-young goes to the comic book store to find out why Go-woon is rejecting him and receives a list of his flaws. Seo-jun appears at the place too. He went to bring his little sister something to eat, and Ju-young starts to think that the two are boyfriends. And Soo-jin invites the protagonist to accompany her to a store. The girl wants to buy a gift for Soo-ho because he was safe at dinner with her family, and she reveals that she will ask him out soon. Even though Soo-jin was acting that way, she also bought a little gift for Ju-kyung. Then the two say goodbye, and the protagonist goes to work. When she arrives, Seo-jun is on site in uniform and explains that he is filling in for an employee. Meanwhile, Soo-ho went to visit Ju-kyung's father and gave him a gift, thinking about improving his relationship with his father-in-law. Returning to the protagonist, Seo-jun takes the same bus as the girl, claiming that he is going to pick up his sister from the comic book store, but we know that she is at home, but Ju-kyung is not. Having spent the day strangely, Seo-jun asks what happened, and the girl gives a hypothetical situation like hers and Soo-jin. The boy says that this hypothetical person should stay with friendship instead of love, because if the man in the middle is deceiving both, he must not be worth it. But he adds that the protagonist doesn't need to worry, as Soo-ho isn't a heartbreaker. When the two say goodbye and Ju-kyung is going home, her mother appears and invites Seo-jun to come along. Of course the boy accepts, and when they get home, the protagonist has a surprise. Soo-ho is also there on site. Ju-kyung's boyfriend is jealous, but she also lied that she was doing something with the family. The boys are making dumplings when a family vote begins on who should date the protagonist, and Soo-ho wins all the votes after appealing to set up a fan meeting between Ju-kyung's mother and her father. However, when a competition begins, the woman says that whoever makes the best cupcakes will win, and they both work hard. In the end, it is Seo-jun who wins. Then the protagonist goes up to her room and Soo-ho appears in it. The boy wants to know what she and Seo-jun were doing together. Ju-kyung tells the truth, they were just working, so her boyfriend just asks that next time. She doesn't lie. The two get along well, and when Soo-ho goes to see the photos of when his beloved was little, he realizes that Ju-kyung is the same little girl he liked when he went to the comic book store. So the boy takes the photo for himself, and when the protagonist tries to get it back, the couple ends up falling into bed, at which point her father enters and kicks her out of the room. Seo-jun goes up to get the table with Soo-ho and wants to know why the two are fighting. Soo-ho says they aren't, and anyway, it's none of his business, so Seo-jun explains that every time Ju-kyung asks him for romantic advice, he wants to take the girl away from Soo-ho and take her for himself. Of course, the two do what they always do, they start fighting, and as they are at the house of the protagonist's furious mother, she makes one cut the other's toenail and say I love you, then each one leaves with a smile. The next day, when the girl arrives at school, the whole class is excited. They made t-shirts and even printed her and Seo-jun's rehearsal photos, so everyone thinks they are dating. The protagonist tries to deny the story, however, Seo-jun doesn't help her, and the boy doesn't say anything to deny or confirm. Later, when Ju-kyung is with her friends, Soo-jin says that she will have plans with Soo-ho that night, and the protagonist is surprised that she didn't know anything. Then she receives a message from the boy asking her to go to the roof. At the place, the two face a difficult conversation. Suho asks her about the photos that she hadn't told him about. However, the girl was going to do it the day he hung up the call because he had found her father. And Ju-kyung says that he also doesn't talk every time he meets someone, so Suho starts with the talk that women and men can't be friends because eventually one of them will start to have feelings for the other. The protagonist comments about Soo-jin and them being old friends, but the boy doesn't understand why she's mentioning her, and Ju-kyung knows that it's not right that this rule he's imposing applies only to her, so the girl decides to leave the place. The protagonist's brother, when he meets Seo-jun, says that he can punch him, and the boy doesn't understand anything that is happening, especially when Ju-young talks about stealing someone from Seo-jun. Before he can clarify, he receives a call and turns your attention to that. It was Hee-kyung calling him. She wanted to know if he released the song that was composed by the boy and Se-yeon to be re-recorded, and she discovered that the boy doesn't know anything. So the woman goes to her boss's right-hand man and questions him about what's going on, as it seems like he's doing everything he can to prevent the tribute to Se-yeon from happening and is crossing the line without getting permission to record the song. The man just tells her that he wants to keep his job, to keep quiet, and to keep to herself. Meanwhile, Suho welcomes Soo-jin to her house unexpectedly since he didn't invite her. So much so that when she heads to the sofa, the boy asks her if she's going to leave, and Soo-jin ends up asking for some water. Suho goes to get the drink, and the girl takes the opportunity to take a photo of the painting on top of his bed to post on her social networks. At that moment, her friend's cell phone starts ringing. It's the protagonist calling. Soo-jin decides to answer and makes Ju-kyung quickly hang up. Then the girl hands over the gift she had bought for Suho, and he doesn't understand as they've never exchanged gifts. It doesn't even make sense for her to be there at that time of night, and she says that she won't accept it, adding that he has a girlfriend and that Soo-jin should leave. The protagonist saw the photo that her friend posted, if we can call her a friend, right, and when her boyfriend calls her, she tells them to talk the next day and hangs up. Hee-kyung begins an investigation on her own and discovers something from a reporter about Suho's father, his boss. At Ju-kyung's work, Suho complains that Seo-jun was also working there the other day and says that she will wait for her to come out so they can talk. So Seo-jun decides to intervene and asks him not to be so obsessive, and then the boy leaves the establishment. Seo-jun tells the protagonist and they are alone that she should go after her lover, and the boy says he can hold his coffee for a moment. As soon as he leaves, the bullies from his old school come in and talk to Seo-jun. They were the ones who found the boy's friendship bracelet and returned it to him, and then they questioned him about whether it was Ju-kyung and Seo-jun who had left. He questions why they want to know, but receives no answer. Meanwhile, the protagonist is talking to her boyfriend and says that she feels uncomfortable telling her friends that they are dating, so he asks her why, because with the rumors they invented about her and Seo-jun, she was calm. He asks Ju-kyung to stop working if the boy stays at the cafe, as he doesn't like her talking or being with Seo-jun. From that moment on, the two start to really fight. The protagonist says that he can't stop him from seeing his friends because, would he do what he's asking? So Suho says yes, but she knows that this decision has to come from him, and Ju-kyung can't impose it. The protagonist then says that if she refuses to work or have friends, maybe they won't be able to date anymore. They both end up suffering from this conversation in the end. The next day, at the bus stop, Suho hears Se-yeon's song coming from a cell phone and girls commenting. However, it wasn't him singing, so the boy decides to run to his father's company. The same thing happened to Seo-jun, who was taking photos when he heard the song on the radio and ran to the company too. Meanwhile, at the scene, Hee-kyung decides to put her job at risk and go after her boss. The woman says that she understands that the man doesn't want Se-yeon's name to become a problem again, but she couldn't steal the boy's song to cover up his mistake, and then shows a photo of her boss with a woman, whom she got from the reporter. Hee-kyung says he can't believe he made the woman publish a story about Se-yeon being a bully to prevent his scandal with the actress from leaking and thus ended up being part of the blame for a young man taking his own life. The woman adds that he better take care of this rather than see her reporting him, and when the woman leaves the room, she comes across Soo-ho at the door, who ends up listening to everything. The boy is devastated when he discovers the truth and runs away. Seo-jun finds him and wants to start a fight, charging his father's company for what he did. However, Soo-ho doesn't want to know anything else, and when will he cross the street without looking around? Seo-jun goes along, and they end up being run over. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like and share to help me. Until next time.